It's the Week 6 preview show. Carson Fox previewing the West Virginia Mountaineers, who are 2-2 on the season, at the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 3-2 on the season. A 4 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff from Boone Pickens Stadium in Stillwater, Oklahoma. On ESPN2 if you're tuning in on television. The betting odds for this game, as of now, so this might move, opened at 5.5, now at 3.5, so a little bit more favorable in the for West Virginia's chances, but still have Oklahoma State as the betting favorite. The over-under set at this game at 65.5. The ESPN matchup predictor does not like the Mountaineers in this situation at just a 34.6% odds for this game, and it kind of plays into the hands of the matchup history that I always like to talk about. Going into preview shows, Oklahoma State has owned the series, 10 wins to 5 losses. West Virginia only 3-9 against the Cowboys as Big 12 conference opponents. But West Virginia has split the series, road and home, going back the last 2 years. We remember that 2022 victory in Stillwater, 24-19 in the regular season finale for both teams in a rainy late November Oklahoma Saturday, in which the Cowboys didn't really seem to be playing for much at that point in time. Had 7 wins. Yes, could have gotten 8, so a better bowl, but weren't going to be playing for a Big 12 conference championship. West Virginia also was staring down, just the end of the regular season, not getting to a bowl. Even with the win, only got West Virginia to a 5-7 record, so avoiding the worst or tied for worst record that they had in the Big 12 going back to 2013, but instead improved to 5-7. Oklahoma State in that game 2 years ago was without an injured Spencer Sanders at quarterback. Instead, faced then freshman quarterback Garrett Rangel, who was just awful. 18 of 42 for just 178 yards, 4 sacks taken, and a fumble. For West Virginia, running back Jalen Anderson really stole the show, busting free twice for 2 long touchdown runs, finishing the day with 155 rushing yards. Also, then freshman quarterback Nico Marchiol pinch hit for an injured Garrett Green, who was starting in his 3rd consecutive game after taking over in the Oklahoma game, then K-State, then this Oklahoma State game. Green gets injured in that contest. Marchiol comes in, picks up enough first downs because of the runs by Anderson, really propels West Virginia to victory on what was a frustrating defensive game. Standout performances by Marcus Floyd in that contest, same with Lee Koba. West Virginia got out of Stillwater with a win, but didn't felt good at the time to end the season on the win, despite the poorest 2022 season. And then for Oklahoma State, it really set, like a reset point for Oklahoma State to get serious, find out who its quarterback would be for 2023. Now moving ahead to that 2023 matchup about midway after West Virginia had lost to Houston on the road on a Thursday night kickoff, had 10 days really to prepare for this game in Morgantown. It was a homecoming game. Oklahoma State ended up winning 48-34. It was a back-and-forth game in which West Virginia was winning 24-20 a minute into the 4th quarter and getting the ball back when cornerback and special teamer Andrew Wilson-Lamp kamikazed punt returner Preston Fox on a punt return. Oklahoma State recovered the muff punt, scored their first of 4 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and beat West Virginia by 2 touchdowns. It was an incredible day by running back Ollie Gordon, one of his fantastic performances en route to his Doak Walker award-winning 2023 campaign, having 29 attempts, 282 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns on the day. But really, you got to pinpoint it on that Andrew Wilson-Lamp, who is no longer with the team, thank God, play in which he knocked out Preston Fox on that punt return. Still wonder if Andrew Wilson-Lamp perhaps had money or something on that game, in the way that played out, and never really saw him again for the rest of the season, and then transferred. Weren't going to let him touch the field. That was just a turning point. I thought at that point in time in the game, and if you go back and watch my recap video of that from last year, I thought with how West Virginia had scored on that previous drive, looked really good, looked like it was picking up momentum, got off the field, getting the ball back into the fourth quarter, could have taken a double-digit lead if it scored again, but no, the rest is history. So let's talk about the 2024 contest. And what I always like to start off with is what's on the line for both teams. For Oklahoma State, loss this week just about sinks their season. I know it's only week 6 and still a lot can happen, but with already back-to-back conference losses to both Utah and Kansas State, losing to West Virginia would mean there's just about no chance with 3 conference losses, all to teams who could perhaps by the end of the season, West Virginia included, contend for a spot in the Big 12 championship game. So not having any of those tiebreakers, no, I think that's just about it. And for Oklahoma State, good stat found by my friends over at West Virginia on Sports Illustrated. Oklahoma State has not lost 3 straight games since 2014 and haven't had an 0-3 start in Big 12 play since 2005. Wow, it's been a while. So to get to 0-3, I feel like, and there's a lot of seniors, there's a lot of upperclassmen on this team. Ollie Gordon, could very well be the first or second running back off the board in the 2024 NFL draft. You've just seen, and not just this year, but in the last 2 years, weird situations with the transfer portal and NIL situations. And Oklahoma State, for as much as that, I feel like we talk about this and how it especially impacted West Virginia going into the 2021 offseason, going into the 2022 offseason. The NIL situation at Oklahoma State has been an odd one that I've tried to keep up, in the news of the last few years. You had some odd comments by head coach Mike Gundy at the end of fall camp saying that they weren't going back to the negotiating table with any of their players. It's time to strap up their pads, strap up their chin straps, and get ready to play ball. We're not going to be renegotiating any sort of NIL deals, trying to put QR codes on the back of players' helmets. So, fans, I don't know if they were watching on TV, could have scanned those QR codes to make NIL payments directly to players. Just some weird things, I feel like. And again, I think this is one of these things for all teams that aren't a part of the SEC and aren't a part of the Big Ten because of their, TV situations now. And I know that the evolution of NIL because of the House case settlement hasn't really gone into effect yet. Will probably go into effect this upcoming offseason for next season and beyond. So the rich will get richer in the SEC and the Big Ten, and the Big 12 schools and ACC schools and G6 schools will have to try and keep up at some point in time. But for Oklahoma State specifically, it just seems like, I don't know, some weird things could potentially happen. I feel like if they're already feeling like prior to, the mid-October, they have nothing, quote unquote, to play for, could get a little funky. For West Virginia, this is the second of a 5-game stretch against teams either are currently or were previously ranked. This is a murderer's row of an October slate that similar to what West Virginia faced in 2015, having this Oklahoma State game next week against a ranked Iowa State game in a cold rush 8 o'clock kickoff at Milan Puskar Stadium. Going to be awesome environment. The week following, a ranked Kansas State who might be the best team in the Big 12. Thank God that game's at home. And then on the road at Arizona, that I know isn't ranked right now, but very well could be by that point in time if they continue to pick it up offensively. So head coach Neil Brown and many of the players have all been, what do you call that? Like just repeating ad nauseum the cliche that they need to go 1-0 this week. They need to go 1-0 each week. And that really couldn't be more true, as the only way for West Virginia to achieve its stated goal of getting to the Big 12 title game is from here on out. Is from just taking it game by game, winning each, and surviving and advancing. Each Saturday is just like the NCAA tournament: survive and advance, move on, get back home next week for a 2-game series at home against quality opponents. Then go on the road. Then you get a bye week, and then the November slate with Cincinnati, Baylor, UCF, and Texas Tech seems to ease up quote unquote, a bit. So this is a big one to start it off right, going on the road against a team that you lost to last year in a game that you feel as if you kind of gave away. You kind of had it, and just some really one big boneheaded mistake, but there were more. Not the greatest day. By Garrett Green in the offense that day. Cole Taylor having a fumble when West Virginia had recovered on a muff punt last year. Very next play kind of gave it away. Like if you recall in that Pitt game a couple of weeks ago, West Virginia gets a turnover and then turns it back over the very next play. And it's not the Pitt game, the Penn State game. So just some things that could have been better from that day. Going to be a hot one. I think this is a storyline that will be talked about come Saturday, but you're not necessarily thinking about pregame, especially this week. If you're, in the state of West Virginia or kind of in the mid-Atlantic states, it's going to be a scorcher down there in Oklahoma. 94 degrees the high and sunny. So I hope all the Mountaineer players are starting to hydrate starting Friday morning, all in their travels to Oklahoma throughout the night into the morning. That they're going to be burning through fluids like crazy. Conditioning might be one of the factors that are talked about during this broadcast. And if you see players starting to go down cramping, it's the next man up, and to get that player back onto the field as quick as possible. So, before I get into what to watch for when Oklahoma State has the ball and what to watch for when West Virginia has the ball, I want to take a brief pause here because I was able to watch. I was really highly anticipating this matchup, one of my most anticipated matchups of the entire Big 12 2024 season between Oklahoma State and Kansas State last week, and I had to watch it. So went back, watched the recording, and what an interesting game it was. I don't know, even after watching that game, if there are bigger picture issues with Oklahoma State there. And I'm going to break that down specifically on the defensive side of the ball, or if Kansas State is just a really, really good team, which I think they are, and they were just really, really hot on this day at home, in the friendly confines of a packed Bill Snyder family stadium. And like the defense for Oklahoma State didn't do the team any favors. So if you watch that game, maybe you did or maybe you didn't, it really seemed as if early in the second quarter things really changed. At that point in the contest, after the first quarter, Ollie Gordon on I think 6 carries had 72 rushing yards. It was incredible. I mean, he reminds me, and I know like the game from last year in Morgantown maybe a little bit different, but watching him in this contest, I kind of got like this, PTSD, I feel like, from when West Virginia in 2014 went up against Derrick Henry of Alabama. If you remember that contest, West Virginia did keep Derrick Henry in check. That was a really well-played defensive game. Just a few things offensively didn't break for West Virginia. Also had a big kickoff return for a touchdown there by Mario Alford in that game. Kevin White's breakout party. But the best way to tackle Derrick Henry in college, and the same way I feel like with Ollie Gordon, is to get him in the backfield or before he gets going, because he's just a battering ram. I mean, like I say that same thing about C.J. Donaldson, but it just seems like Gordon has these long strides. He's almost like a horse. He's built like, Seabiscuit or Secretariat or Hidalgo. The boy can just run through a brick wall, and he crushed a K-State defender at this point in this game, lowering his shoulder, just absolutely truck stick through this defender. But if you stop him within the first yard, 3 yards maybe of him touching the ball before he gets going, before he hits his max acceleration, and especially into the second level, you can get him down. And that's why I think seeing his numbers for this season, talking about number 0, junior running back Ollie Gordon, 88 carries for 334 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's just a 66.8 yards per average a game in 2024. In 2023, he averaged 123.7 yards per game. So just a little bit over half of his production from last year. And that's what it takes. It takes a concerted effort for 4 quarters to get him down on the ground as soon as he touches the ball. But if you let him get out, especially in space, and he can even do so with receiving, has 12 catches for 80 yards on the season, he'll kill you. He'll absolutely kill you because he is just a physical specimen he's gonna play great in the NFL. I know it. If especially he keeps his mind right, is motivated, just going back to that NIL situation. I don't know what Oklahoma State's paying him, but is it as much as what he would make as a rookie, contract in the NFL? I bet that's what it's got to be comparable to. Or anybody in the country would love to have Ollie Gordon. So Oklahoma State, going back to that game against Kansas State, misses an early second quarter 34-yard field goal. Logan Ward, kicker, just pushed this or hooked it a little bit left, and that just seemed to kill a little bit of Oklahoma State's momentum when the very next series at that point in time, Oklahoma State gets down into the Kansas State red zone. Kind of a strip sack fumble cost Oklahoma State at least another 3 points. At least 3 points on that. So it very well could have been a 21-19 game at half. And then out of the half, Kansas State scored 21 unanswered points in multiple different ways that I'm going to talk about. And the first 7 of Oklahoma State's 8 drives in the second half either resulted in interceptions, punts, 2 interceptions by quarterback Alan Bowman, or a turnover on downs. So after seeing how Oklahoma State fared against Utah the week before, the defensive game plan, the mold is there. You got it, Neil Brown and Jordan Lensley, of how to stop this Oklahoma team in their tracks, to not let them do what they can do against so many opponents of comparable talent, or even better, or especially less, but couldn't do it against Texas last year in that Big 12 championship game. No way. Everything runs through. So going now about what to watch for when Oklahoma State has the ball, everything runs through running back Ollie Gordon, number 0. Gave you the numbers on him. He is the workhorse. That is who they're going to want to feature on first down, on second down, on third down. I haven't seen much of him. Reading in my preseason magazine, running a transfer from Arkansas, A.J. Green, who they would have liked to get involved. Don't know much about his situation. They have another Lehigh, I think. Let me get his name on that. There is another running back watching that game. Yeah, Sesi Vailihai had 8 carries for 32 yards in that game, so trying to get him involved kind of as a spell back. But they know that if they can get Ollie Gordon going, and just like he did in that fourth quarter against Oklahoma, against West Virginia last year, he gets better as the game goes along with more carries, and he's able to wear opponents down. That's when he can take advantage of you. But so far in 2024, that hasn't been the case. So for the West Virginia defense, get him on the ground as soon as he touches the ball, or before he's able to get things going, holding him around the line of scrimmage. Now, if it's not going through Gordon, it's going through the quick-triggered passer, 7th-year senior quarterback. I don't know how he got an extra year's worth of eligibility. I don't know how the NCAA just determined by transferring to Michigan for 1 year and not playing at all constitutes him earning an extra year's worth of eligibility. And whether it was, because he already had his year's worth of COVID eligibility used, plus a medical redshirt from his time at Texas Tech. So, it is what it is at this point in the time of the season he's playing. He's got eligibility, he's doing it. But a 25 or 24-year-old quarterback, number 7, Alan Bowman, played against Will Grier back in 2018 on the road at Texas Tech. Yes, he is still in college football. Few of the things that I'll say about Alan Bowman, and not just specifically as it pertains to that K-State game, but yes, specific has a lot to do with that. Interceptions this year. Already has 6 on the season. I know Jalen Daniels is being like the poster child for just, interceptions and not, disappointing expectations this year at the quarterback position in the Big 12. But Alan Bowman, I feel like he's already reached his peak which was last year beating Oklahoma in the final Bedlam game. This year, 117 for 195 completions for attempts. He is 10th in the country, believe it or not, at 307 yards passing per game, but does have those 6 interceptions, 11 touchdowns, 1,537 yards through the air. Not a rushing threat, but here's what he does do well. He's able to manipulate or escape out of the pocket and throw the ball out of bounds. I'll give him that credit because he's only allowed or has only been sacked once all season. So credit the Oklahoma State offensive line, but also credit Bowman's experience. He's mature. He knows what he's doing. He knows he can't take sacks, or it's not in the best benefit for this offense to be able, to take sacks. So he gets the ball out of his hands very quickly. He's quick triggered. He's got this kind of like heaving sidearm motion that just irks me. That's why he really has no prospects at the NFL, in my opinion. Has no mobility, and he has this just funky motion that just is not, the pure passer kind of. I mean, Garrett Green just makes him, outcome to outcome, but it's just like, love the throwing motion Garrett Green has as compared to Alan Bowman. He's got an awesome receiving core. I know I spoke during the Kansas game how much I loved the trio of Kansas and Grimm, Skinner, and Arnold, but this is the 4 that I feel like are all could contend for on any given day being the leading receiver in a given week in the Big 12 conference. Still think McMillan's the best wide receiver in the Big 12. I think overall talent, Travis Hunter. Yeah, he can do it both ways, wide receiver and cornerback, but McMillan I don't know how you stop 6'5", 190, and you throw them all over the field to him. But Travis Hunter, right there. But this core of 4 wide receivers from Oklahoma State, led by a guy who we didn't get to see in Morgantown last year because of injuries, redshirt junior Dejon Stribling, number 1, got 27 catches for 502 yards and 3 touchdowns. Big-bodied guy. 3 of their 4 wide receivers are all 6'2" or and like 205, 210 or bigger. So Stribling going to be the number 1 threat. Also, but the small guy that killed West Virginia last year, Brennan Presley, number 80, also a senior. 33 catches on the year, 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. A guy who they've wanted to get more involved of, and at times has been able to do so, and talked a lot during that broadcast against K-State last week. Talon Shetron, 10 receptions for 212 yards and a touchdown, and then big guy, big deep threat, redshirt senior number 10 Rashad Owens, 18 catches for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns. So predominantly Stribling. That's who it seems like Bowman has had a great connection with in 2024, but also I remember Presley and Owens from last year. Shetron has been in spurts, trying to get him more involved. Jaden Bray, kind of makes sense how he felt as if maybe he's at best the 4th best receiver, maybe 5th in that Oklahoma State offense. Let's go to West Virginia and compete to try and get some playing time. So if the play is not going through Ollie Gordon, and they like to run him a lot, they like to throw to him a lot, it's going to be a lot of passes by Alan Bowman. Quick triggered passes, and I know West Virginia does a great job, led by TJ Jackson, who's one of the best in the countries at creating pressure. This is the time where if you're going to get that pressure, get your hands on the quarterback and bring him down to the ground. If you go back to that 2023 contest last year, this was kind of when, like myself included, but many fans were really freaking out about Jordan Leslie's defensive play calls and how to create more pressure because West Virginia didn't do that great of a job against Alan Bowman last year, and that's what Neil Brown spoke to, and it's coming to fruition again a year later, is that he likes to get the ball out of his hand quickly, especially off play action. So West Virginia's got to have a key balance between wanting to have that rushing the passer and playing good defense. I'll talk about that in my 3 keys to victory after I talk about what to look for when West Virginia has the ball. So again, last week of how Oklahoma State played against Kansas State. And the thing that I noticed, and then I was like, okay, let's really dive deep about how Oklahoma State has done against opposing running backs, but it's also opposing quarterbacks rushing the ball. Oklahoma State is 117th out of 133 FBS teams in rush defense at 604 yards per game. I know they're missing all Big 12 first team linebacker Colin Oliver, who I think got injured in their second game against Arkansas. But you look at some of these numbers, how Oklahoma State's done against its 3 FBS opponents, so not South Dakota State, not Tulsa included, but K-State, Utah, and Arkansas. Okay, last week, DJ Giddens from Kansas State, 15 carries for 187 yards and a touchdown. Quarterback Avery Johnson ran the ball 5 times for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against Utah's Micah Bernard at running back, 25 carries, 182 yards. And also quarterback Isaac Wilson for Utah had a 48-yard rush. Only finished the day with 41 yards rushing on 6 carries because of the sacks that he took. But to have a 48-yard rush as a quarterback, wow, saying something. Also, Arkansas. Jaquindon Jackson, running back, 24 carries, 149 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And quarterback Taylon Green had 18 carries for 61 yards. So it doesn't matter, running back, quarterback. Teams are able to do that against this Oklahoma defense, which is kind of surprising to me when I look preseason. I know, again, because of the injury to Oliver, but you still have Nick Martin, who was one of the best linebackers in the Big 12 last year and is doing it again. The way he's tackling guys. Their defensive line's just getting easily penetrated. I thought Cody Walterscheid would be a little bit better, being he's a senior, multi-year starter. But I think without Oliver, the defensive line just not creating enough pressure. They do have some studs in the secondary. Corey Black, really good number 1 cornerback, and also Kendall Daniels at safety. So guys who are going to want to, are not afraid to get up in the line of scrimmage, and they're having to rely on for tackles. Now, also, so to make matters worse about how bad they are in the rush defense, pass defense is even worse. Last week against Kansas State, and it almost feels like Groundhog Day with how West Virginia did against Albany, Kansas State had 6 completions of 19 yards or more, highlighted by Jace Brown's 55-yard touchdown completion. Oklahoma State is 120th out of 133 FBS teams in pass defense at 276 yards per game. So you're able to throw the ball downfield on them. And West Virginia had a more than successful game last week because of getting Hudson Clement involved and throwing the ball in crossing patterns downfield, attacking the middle of the field and having success with that. Also with Cole Taylor in the fourth quarter at tight end. So the way I can see this playing out, knowing, if you watch my last video and I talked about West Virginia trying to be more aggressive, to give more autonomy to Garrett Green, to let him run the 2-minute offense for 4 quarters. And to attack that way. And that's exactly how Kansas State attacked Oklahoma State a week ago. So it's success. The blueprint is there to do it. But instead, I know how this game is going to go, is that Neil Brown and Chad Scott are going to want to establish the ground game with C.J. Donaldson and Jaheim White. Feeling as if they haven't necessarily done so this year, especially to the ability that they think they have based upon 2023. Did have success, I feel like, yards per after contact in the Pitt game, especially when C.J. Donaldson came into the game. But then I feel like you're going to need to attack vertically in the passing game. We saw that, really 4 pass catchers emerge, it seemed like, toward the end of that Kansas State game. Neil Brown and Garrett Green feeling comfortable with Hudson Clement, Traylon Ray, Rodney Gallagher, and Cole Taylor being the 4 primary pass catchers on the field in the fourth quarter. So almost kind of feel as if it's like your, late, 2-minute, 1-minute offense in basketball. Who are you going to have on the field? Who are your best opportunities to score? But, some of these wide receiver or some of these cornerbacks, big, long, lanky guys, and we saw Justin Robinson do really well against Pitt, even though it perhaps was, argued as an offensive pass interference call on that touchdown catch late in the game against Pitt. But can he get involved? And how so? Is it more so just used for the red zone, or can you get him as part of that rotation? And also Jaden Bray, is he inspired to go against his former team? I know Neil Brown said this. I don't know if it was necessarily the press conference on Monday, but throughout the season and even into the off season, like, he doesn't want to have to put pressure on Jaden Bray, knowing that he's going against his old team. But I don't believe in, like, what wouldn't you be inspired to play against your old team? Those guys, you've gone against them in practice. He's from the state of Oklahoma, so why wouldn't you want to go out there and take it to him? So does he get involved some way, somehow? And then third, let Garrett Green run. Be smart. And what I mean by that is be disciplined to, not take those kinds of big hits. It's still a long season. Whenever you have space, slide when necessary. Take care of your body. But just like you saw against Kansas, how effective that it can be whenever they're, 4 wide and they all rush downfield and take the defenders with them, leaving up lanes for him to run. That's what Avery Johnson was able to kill Oklahoma State in this game. 2 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. Let Garrett Green cook. So that's why I feel like when West Virginia has the ball, also when Oklahoma State has the ball. Let's talk about the special teams. You know how I love to talk about special teams. Got another Australian punter battle. Oh, yeah. Sophomore Hudson, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Kaak, Kaak, has 12 punts for Oklahoma State on the season, just a 43.4 yard average, long of 51, 4 punts inside the 20, and 1 over 50 yards. Now, he also has a redshirt senior, Wes Paul, who they kind of split the duties based upon different scenarios. Paul, wow, has a long of 73 on the year, 12 punts, a 50.9 average per punt, 3 inside the 20, and he has 7 of 50 plus. So Paul can boot it. So maybe they save Kayak for some of those, like, close coffin corner punts for nailing opponents inside their own 20 or even closer, and Paul just go back there and boot it as hard as you can. On the opposite side, Ollie Stroud, did have that one shanked punt there late in the game against Kansas last week. It was kind of like unexpected, at least for me, who's someone who really loves watching what Ollie Stroud does out there. His yards per punt average has dropped this season, 42.6. Does have the long of 57. Does have 6 inside the opponent's 20, and does have 1 punt, over 50 yards. But if he gets the opportunity in this game, I hope he can boot some, get that yards per punt average up, because I know he has the capability. Just we haven't seen that so far. Some of the times that he's been called into punt have been with shorter fields, trying to lock opponents into the corners and pin them deep in their own end zone. I hope Straw gets an opportunity to show off his leg in this one. Not much to speak about between the two the returners in both the kickoff game and punt return game. We did see, I'll speak to one thing, we did see Rodney Gallagher come in for a majority of especially the first half, doing the punt returning duty, had 2 yards, 9-yard average for Preston Fox, who apparently was dealing with some concussion symptoms. Didn't know if he was going to play in that game against Kansas, but did come in and did field a punt. On the opposite side of the field, it's kind of been 2 guys doing some of the duty. It seems like Gavin Freeman is the better returner at punts. He has 2 for 31 yards, long of 29 on the season, so one decent return for Gavin Freeman. Brennan Presley also doing some of that duty in the punt return yards, but has 6 returns for just a total of 3 yards. I don't know how that's statistically possible. But in the kickoff game, it's both Freeman and Presley, right around 20 yards per average. Freeman has a long of 38 yards on a return. Presley has 30 on a return. Traylon Ray really yet to, I feel like, get going at that kickoff return position. Still has the long of 28-yard return on the season, but still just only a 17.7 yards average. Don't know if it's worth perhaps trying somebody else back there, whether that be Gallagher, whether that be Jaheim White, or Neil Brown will stick with Traylon Ray back there. And also in the kicking game. So talked about how Logan Ward missed that field goal. Really seemed to kind of set Oklahoma State on a track toward a loss after that kick. So can he will he make up for it within the friendly confines of Boone Pickens Stadium on Saturday? He's 10 of 13 on the season, a long of 52. So, or, is he still going to be a bit erratic, and Mike Gundy might not feel like trusting him or wanting to go for it on a situation in which it might be, he just doesn't trust Ward to kick that field goal. So the other side for Michael Hayes, only 5 opportunities, but he's made all 5 of them. Long of 44. We'll see how he does in this contest. So my 3 keys to victory, I'll give you my prediction, and then we'll head on out here, a little bit faster than usual. I just feel like I know this Oklahoma State team really well. It's a part of the course, it feels like, for a Mike Gundy-led team that aren't – they're the interceptions, the turnovers, some of these lack of the finer details are a little bit off for me. It seems like that's the way Mike Gundy likes to do things, is not try to be too fancy, not just play simple, play good, hard-nosed physical ball. We know how they do defensively with daring teams to throw over the top and press coverage. And being just, harassing and after you. And then on the offensive side, they have a workhorse back prior to, Chuba Hubbard being one of those backs, now Ollie Gordon. So they don't do anything simple, but they like to play fast. So that if they're not going through Gordon, they're going to stick with Alan Bowman in the quarterback game and try and throw it to these talented receivers and let them make plays. So my 3 keys to victory. Number 1. You have to create your own energy and be ready to rock and roll out of a bye week, unlike Houston last year. That was unacceptable. With off a bye, going into a Thursday night contest, and I know that NRG or Tedesco Stadium or wherever they play, I think the name's changed down there at Houston, but with only fewer than 30,000 people in the crowd, it seemed as if they almost were feeling like they were playing at a glorified high school game, weren't taking Houston all that seriously. I don't think that's the case for Oklahoma against for West Virginia against Oklahoma State. I think they view Oklahoma State as a team that's comparable or above them in the pecking order of the Big 12, so they're going to give it their all. They're going to be fired up, but you seem to have some momentum there at the end of that Kansas game, getting a victory, almost feeling as if you wanted to play last weekend rather than have the bye. Now, all the injuries that piled up from that Kansas game, I liked having the bye. Sounds like Aubrey Burks is going to be healthy. Sounds like Reed Carrico is going to be healthy. Not any injury issues other than a TJ Crandall, who Neil Brown said was questionable. We'll see if he plays in this contest. So everybody's healthy, which you never can complain about this. And Oklahoma State has gone through a gauntlet. 5 tough teams. Even Tulsa, who they ended up beating by multiple scores, but still, Arkansas, Utah, and Kansas State a week ago. So they're looking ahead toward a bye to try and get healthy, if you want to look at it in that form or fashion. And Oklahoma and West Virginia should come in fresh. Now, hopefully that doesn't mean that they need to wear off any rust. They can just pick back up from where that Kansas game let off, especially offensively, and they can start to put some things together defensively, because that's what really we're hoping for as Mountaineer fans, is that I still don't feel as if this defense is going to become precipitously or a letter grade better by the end of the season, but you hope some of the things, forcing turnovers, Tyron Bradley coming up with 2 of them a week ago, they can, ball hawk, they can be, and then offensively, again, momentum, play fast, play strong, big plays, throw the ball over down the field, don't just slog around in the mud. And okay, don't want to beat that too much, because my 2 and 3 out of my 3 keys to victory kind of play off that. But again, you're coming out of a bye week, be hot, be fast, play inspired on the road, create your own energy. It's not like you're playing in Morgantown. Number 2, and it's a few points all wrapped up in one. I feel like one is retain focus. to endure wave after wave. Oklahoma State likes to run on average 72 plays per game and don't celebrate until the game's over. If you come away with 2-3 turnovers, great, awesome. Do not celebrate them until the game is over, because that's the way Oklahoma State plays. Is who cares? We'll get them on the next one. It's volume. It's volume. They figure if they're going to run more plays, 70, 80, or 80 or more plays in this game, they're going to be able to score points of it. So can you hang with them? Even in a day, it seems as if like nothing worked well. Missing field goals, missed red zone opportunities, turnovers, they still were able to score 20 points. Still. So that's what I mean. They're going to bring it for 4 quarters. So don't get too low, but especially don't get too high. If you get a 3 and out, you get the ball back, awesome, great. That's 1 down, 1 series down. They get a lot of offensive drives. Again, 8 in the second half last week, and still seemed like nothing went right for them, but they were still attacking all game long. So if it's not going through Ollie Gordon, Alan Bowman's going to want to sling the ball down the field, and I don't care if you got an interception the previous series. It's now, what did you do for me lately? What did you do on this defensive series? So keep the focus, retain the energy. It's going to be a wave after wave that this Oklahoma State offense attacks you. Be able to deal with it. Be physical. I think just like Kansas State was a week ago, we're going to find out who is strapped up their pads tight and wants to hit Ollie Gordon, wants to be physical. And if you get an opportunity for a sack on Alan Bowman, great. That's, go after him, hit him hard. And same with these wide receivers. Do not let them muscle you down the field. They are going to play to the length of the line of the rule book and see if and same with their defensive backs. To the letter of the law, to see if this Big 12 officiating crew, whoever West Virginia gets for Saturday, is going to call it. So, last thing, I would say don't wait too long offensively to cut it loose. Like I said, I think Neil Brown and Chad Scott are going to want to, run the ball, establish the line of scrimmage, assert their will, do all that. Fine. But again, don't let it play out like Houston last year, where you're into the third quarter and it's like, okay, well now, or even the fourth quarter, now we're going to let it loose. And Garrett, go ahead, Garrett, on your 2-minute offense and go from there. No. Like Kansas State started doing that toward the end of the first quarter. They went for it, I think, twice on first down in the first quarter, maybe even on their first offensive drive. Now, it wasn't an opportunity, I feel like, that they could have kicked field goals, playing to that point that I've talked about in other videos, like take the points when necessary. But, Kansas State was aggressive from the jump, and that's how West Virginia should play against Oklahoma, because this is going to be a high-scoring affair. My prediction, I went in the offseason with Oklahoma State in this matchup, and unfortunately I'm going to stick with it. I just feel like Mike Gundy, I know West Virginia has a victory against Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy, but has this coaching edge against West Virginia for some reason. I don't know why. I said in my preseason predictions video it would be 31-27. I think it's going to be a higher scoring affair than that, because of West Virginia's struggles on the defensive end, because of Oklahoma State's defensive struggles. So I would say 41-38. One of those ones you're going to want to just rip your hair out. I think that West Virginia has all of the reason and has all of the ability to go out there and beat Oklahoma State. Just for whatever reason, Mike Gundy just has the Andrew Wilson lamp play last year. That one thing. You could talk about last year, the difference in 2 games for West Virginia, and I talked about this all season long, was Garrett Green taking his helmet off after the Hail Mary, or would have been game-winning play to Hudson Clement, cost West Virginia 15 yards on the kickoff. That was more than enough field position to give Donovan Smith in Houston enough opportunity to throw the ball downfield to the end zone, and they come away with a Hail Mary and also the Andrew Wilson lamp play. So just drives me crazy. And, playing on the road, I think this is a tough matchup. This is one, looking at it on paper, when I was coming up with my 9-3 preseason prediction, I was thinking Penn State, I was thinking this game, and I was thinking either between, Kansas State and Iowa State. So This is one I feel like is just comparable talent between the two. Even though I'll take the edge of Garrett Green over Alan Bowman, but I might give them the edge at everywhere else offensively, and then defensively might be even back and forth, with West Virginia getting the edge on the defensive line. So comparable talent, coaching might be the difference here. Whoever creates the most energy and executes the game plan. Pretty obvious of how I've all laid it out in this video of how to attack offensively and defensively, how to attack Oklahoma State. So can Neil Brown and Jordan Leslie put it all together, and can these players not make bonehead plays? Just make the routine plays. Play good in coverage, make tackles, play physical. Do all of those things are easier said than done. That's why I'm talking about it on the internet and not playing out there. But can they make it come to fruition? That's what I'm hoping with my heart. My heart says West Virginia wins. My head is saying Oklahoma State's going to come away with a 3-point victory. I hope I'm wrong. And I'm coming on Saturday, and I'm talking about a great game, and we're able to recap it, and that's what I'll do, win or lose. But for right now, I'm still sticking with, prove it. I'll believe it whenever you can prove it to me. Still heartbroken about that backyard brawl loss. And, if what that means, for later, downstream effects. So West Virginia's 2-2 on the season. I'm 3-1 in my predictions, picking Penn State, picking Albany, and picking West Virginia to beat Kansas, missing the backyard brawl. So that's how I am this year on my predictions. Let's see. I hope I'm wrong on this one too, and that West Virginia comes away with a victory. So love to know your thoughts. What do you think of this Oklahoma State team? Do you think West Virginia is up for the task on the road? Can they do it? Did the way that I describe it make sense and they can go out there and do so? So love to have your comments here on YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog. I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. I'll be back on Sunday and we'll be able to break it all down. So hail West Virginia. Let's go.